These dudes better get it together because women are leaving these cheaters. Women are leaving these liars. They're not sitting up here pining away, throwing mugs, throwing things, crying, begging them, "What did I do wrong? What did I do to deserve this?" They're leaving these dudes alone. So this woman asked the question, am I the a-hole for wanting to walk away from my marriage and the child we were raising after finding out the child is biologically my husband's? So her husband has a child. It's not her child. So absolutely, you're not the a-hole. But let's look at the post. She says, there's a lot to this and it's all newly revealed to me, so I'm still processing it. And I'm sure I'll be all over the place. I'm so angry about all of this. My husband's sister adopted a child 4 years ago. She had talked before about being a single mom by choice. And when her friend had a child she didn't want to raise, she said it made sense to step in and offer to become the baby's mom. Everyone was supportive and welcomed the child into the family. 2.5 years ago, my husband's sister was diagnosed with MS. She unfortunately declined rapidly and asked us to take in her child, and we agreed. We had not yet had children of our own at that point, which made it easier. We made sure she still spent time with her child, and she asked that we continue raising the child. And I'm saying the child to keep anonymity, no matter how bad she gets. If she dies, we agreed. My husband never acted weird around the child, never acted like he had some secret. He acted like an uncle willing to step in and raise his sister's child. Recently, his sister confessed to me that my husband was the biological father of this child. She said my husband and her best friend used to hook up occasionally, and he did it again right before we got married. And this child is the result of his infidelity. I was sick. She told me she couldn't keep lying to me because eventually it would come out, and she wanted to minimize the damage. I confronted my husband and he denied it, so I asked him to do a DNA test. He's the father. There's no doubt. DNA confirmed he's the biological father. He told me nothing happened since we were married, and he loves me and he's sorry for what he did. He said it was a drunk night before our wedding and he would never do something like that again. Then he said he wanted us to be a family and offered to adopt his child and raise them as our own. He told me this doesn't have to end us. I left the house and have been staying with my sister since the DNA results. I'm disgusted and don't want to sign up for this. I know that baby is innocent, but I now can only see what my husband did, and I cannot imagine raising them and acting like their mom and keeping my husband in my life. My husband's sister has reached out to apologize multiple times, and she told the rest of the family the truth also. My husband's parents have tried to contact me to get me back to my husband. They have told me I have a family now and I can't leave, especially not with their daughter unable to raise this baby again. I had to block them because their messages were blaming and shaming me more and more for not agreeing to marriage counseling and moving forward as a family. I don't see a way back from this, but I have been in this child's life since birth and raised them for more than 1.5 years. I just know I could never be a good mom to them, knowing what I know. Am I the a-hole for wanting a divorce and walking away? She's absolutely not the a-hole, and she's right to feel disgusted and distraught in all of these words because they built a relationship built on a lie. You can't really go further than that, but he was perfectly fine with it because many of these people are just not right in the brain. They think that, as time goes by, a woman will just eventually accept it. Like, just water under the bridge and it'll be okay. Like they have their hooks sunk into you deep enough to where you won't want to leave or the woman won't want to leave. And they are seeing that they're wrong in that assessment. And I am here for that. Leave these people alone. They need to be lonelier. This dad made a baby. Now he gets to be a parent. Yay. Let's look at a few of the comments. All right. Mad Gecko Lady says, not the a-hole. He can look after his own child and his family can help. I would never get over that betrayal. And then the OP says, I can't see a way to get past it either. The disgust I feel about everything that's happened only gets worse the longer I sit with it. Hold Fast says, a friend of mine had a minor scandal in her family a few decades ago. Her uncle used to travel to, if I recall correctly, Malaysia for business a lot. At some point, he suggested to his wife to adopt a child from there. They didn't have any of their own, so many poor kids living there in poverty. So they flew over together to meet a boy up for adoption. The wife, or the story goes, took one look at this toddler, turned to her husband and said, "Do you think I'm stupid? That's your son." Turned around, booked an earlier flight home, and filed for divorce. I never met that woman, but I always admired her self-respect. I absolutely love that short story. Glass Engine says, I admire her self-respect too. Carlitos Pig says, I do 3, good for her. This person says, and my axe. Okay, that's interesting. Neat Nefariousness says, absolutely. I wonder whatever happened with the husband after this. Did he go through with the adopting the kid on his own? I'm guessing that since it would have involved a lot of time and effort, he probably wasn't as interested in raising a kid on his own without the ability to pass off most of the work onto someone else. I'm so glad that women are talking about this, how much work it is to raise children with where the man is just, can opt in or opt out. That sucks for the kid, but the ex-wife was smart and had enough self-respect to walk away. The husband in this potentially apocryphal scenario was stupid and overplayed his hand. Apocryphal means like fake scenario or made up story or something like that. He overplayed his hand. Had he been smarter, he wouldn't have introduced his wife to a single pre-chosen kid to force her hand into adopting the one kid he was interested in, his. The wife would probably have had her suspicions about the kid's paternity well before they even arrived in Malaysia. The presentation of a single kid who resembled her husband would have made the deception very clear to someone with suspicions about what he was trying to pull off. Play stupid games. Glass Engine says, I think you're right. This guy didn't want to raise his child himself, and he wanted the wife to do it. I highly doubt he went ahead with the adoption. I think a lot of men are like this, and when mothers and fathers separate, it's not too uncommon for fathers to find partners first to help care for their child. This is from a guy. Yes, that is exactly what happens. Deep Rig says he cheated on you. Drunk makes no difference. His sister would have continued to raise the child, and your husband would have continued to be the uncle. They would have continued to lie. If the sister didn't grow a self-righteous attitude to maybe get in God's good grace, this is only so she can earn your forgiveness to go in peace. I'm sorry, no one deserves any forgiveness just because they are dying. You deserve better, and you literally have the right to divorce. He is a cheater and a liar. He made his bed and has to respect that his actions just cost him your trust. No trust, no relationship. Bam. That's enough to end this, and I will stop there. No trust, no relationship. These people better learn what integrity means. They better learn that their actions need to match their words. And I know that some people are splitting hairs because he cheated before they were actually married. But if she believed and he made her believe, and they were supposedly in a monogamous relationship, simply being a fiance was enough. Simply even being a boyfriend was enough. If you're in a monogamous relationship and you step out, I don't care if you're not legally married yet, you have broken the trust. All right, y'all, chime in. Let me know what you think of this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. We have been talking about how food gets weaponized. Food is a form of control, and some of it has to do with bodies and keeping women a certain size. So what happens to the women that are just naturally tall? Where do they fit in? How are they treated? Now, I know that this is a tangent from the food conversation because obviously if you are tall, you're going to be tall no matter how much you eat or how little you eat. But all of this kind of goes together because those women get bullied or talked about or shamed, even though these things are out of their control. I want to have this conversation because it all goes together in some form or fashion. So I'm going to talk about the weaponization of food, but I want to take a slight tangent. Cerulean Wonder says, I'm tall, and I wonder if other tall women have felt similar to me, so I'll share. When I was growing up, I was always taller than most other children, but never heavy. Despite that, I was bullied for being fat, no matter how much I weighed. No one outright called me a giant, but the message I got from all that was if I couldn't be short, petite, and cute like the other women, then I had to be as skinny as physically possible. I also come from a family of short, well-endowed women, so I was bullied by them for being tall and flat. Deeply confusing. And the reason why I said some of this is going to be a tangent because no one is outright taking her food or controlling her food, but they are using shame and bullying tactics to the point where she started to neglect her own nutritional needs so that she can be skinny, thinking that this was going to be a way of avoiding being bullied. And this is the reason why we got to continue to talk about this stuff, because once we get to the point where we don't care about validation from them or their opinions of our bodies, then we could eat and do things that are best for us outside of trying to fit into a box, because your height is not something that you can control, but you still need to eat to be able to power the body that you have been given. And then SM responds to Cerulean Wonder saying, sorry you went through that. It's society's message of literally keeping us small. They want us to believe we don't deserve to take up space. We need to perform while not existing as anything other than an ornament, good on the eyes and unthreatening. The fact that she says an ornament, I think of the models and how they want to keep them rail thin. And then I heard one time they need to keep them skinny like a hanger, like the clothes that they're wearing to model are supposed to drape off of a hanger. And that's the reason why these people are so gaunt. They are here to exist, to just look at like something to decorate. And that's it. But you do still have to have enough energy to go cook and clean and do all of those other things. Amy says, yes, my best friend's mom is very thin, has been her whole life, but she's tall. Growing up, she felt huge compared to her friends. She has issues with this to this day, and she's in her 70s. She still says she's fat, though she's extremely thin. Women are expected to be small in every way, size, voice, personality. Oh my goodness, that is absolutely true. Size, I am small. I'm a short person, but I am a thick girl. I'm kind of wide. Voice, I am loud. I'm going to be assertive. Personality, definitely have a big personality. And this is one of the reasons that people target me, because they cannot stand a mouthy, assertive big personality in the package of a woman. They absolutely do not like it. So we have got to get to the point where we are perfectly fine with taking up space and being seen. Here I did say I'll address tall women because yes, y'all get labeled as masculine for this reason. And I think we got to hammer some of these points home. Men's tastes and standards have jacked up society since forever. We have so much to deconstruct. We have got to stop living our lives for the validation and gaze of them and live to be healthy and eat enough to power through our lives and have, be able to do activities of daily living versus making sure that we stay a particular size for these people. Kayla made an amazing point right here that we need to talk about as well. Kayla says, yeah, when we're hungry, we're also physically and mentally tired all the time. Patriarchal beauty standards are usually pretty oppressive in one form or another. If you are starving yourself, if you're eating like one piece of cheese and 2 crackers, that is going to keep you jacked up. Yes, you may stay alive, but you don't have the energy to do anything. So this is the reason why I talk about you need to eat. And we have got to lose all of these unhealthy attitudes regarding food because many of them are just performative. They're performative for the patriarchy. Creole Nola says, true. Think about women ingesting tapeworms to keep from getting fat. Think about when speed was all the rage for weight loss in the 70s and 80s. Speed. Also think about shapewear and corsets. Why do we have to tame our fat and curves, etc., to be appropriate for the male gaze? What do men do for the female gaze? There is no reason men should be waddling around here bald, fat, and short. Send them back. Madge says, you reminded me of head shapers and feet binders and those stacking neck rings. Even makeup is bad for you. And then Kyla says, yup, all make you more feminine or incapable of running away, fighting back, or even just drawing in a full breath of air. Shapewear is atrocious. I can't even wear a bra that is too tight. And then you have these women walking around with this shapewear to keep you like sucked in and too tight. I just cannot imagine. And then thinking about the feet bindings. Our feet match our bodies. Like if you are a tall woman, you should not have itty bitty little feet. You are going to topple over. That is physics or something. You need to have feet that are proportional to your body. But this is the thing. It's like they have shamed women to the point where they think that everybody's supposed to have a size 5 to 7 shoe size. That does not make any sense if you're a taller woman. But it goes back to women being masculinized simply by being tall and showing up as their body structure was given to them. Like they have no choice but to be tall. They were just born that way. Then Amor says, I have a lot to unpack surrounding this topic. My father didn't weaponize food when I was growing up. However, I grew to be tall. I'm 5'8". I also grew up Black in a predominantly white neighborhood. Although I kept at average weight throughout middle school, high school, and college, I felt fat and ungainly because many of the white girls around me were petite. My curves were regarded as ugly, while their flat chests and behinds were prized. It took years for me to realize that I had been made to feel as though I didn't have the right to take up space. I had been made to feel that my Afrocentric features were ugly. Food is weaponized differently for women who aren't white. Another thing about my weight that I have to mention, I've spent most of my adulthood yo-yoing between being thin and heavy. Right now, I'm heavy. When I was younger, I noticed that during my thin periods, I dealt with more harassment from men. I was SA'd twice by different men during that time. The harassment frightened me. I eventually concluded that being thin made me unsafe, so I put weight on. The weight, as well as my age, I'm 56, has made me invisible to men. Truthfully, at the moment, I'm grateful for the invisibility, but it angers me that all women don't have the luxury to exist in peace. Thinness is prized in women, but in reality, thin women are treated horribly as they are regarded as objects. Weight is just another vehicle that men use to control and dominate women. Fat women are ignored or demonized as they aren't easy for men to control or dominate. Wow. And yes, being a bigger size, being non-white and having curves, it does get you treated differently. I've always been bigger than normal, but the thing is, once you accept that you will never fit into these standards, once you stop giving a damn about the standards and being a certain size, it makes living a little bit easier. Like the whole BMI is crap because our bodies are not, we're not supposed to fit into boxes and never will. And so these boxes just make you always be on this hamster wheel of trying to gain favor or get head pats or whatnot. And that always keeps you off your feet, out of control, trying to restrain yourself. And by that token, not living your life. Y'all join in. Let's keep this conversation going. A woman jumped into my TikTok inbox and she wanted to share her story time. She says, I think my marriage has deterred me from men forever. It started so well. He was nice and attentive, kind and warm. He took care of me and had tons of compliments for me. Love bombing. There were small signs like blaming me for some things and gripping my hands to stop me from going away in public. In fact, after one of our first dates, he guilt tripped me as he didn't have the means to go home and I didn't want him to stay with me. Even when I write this, I realize how big these red flags were, and I chose to ignore them. We started living together, and slowly over the years, I have changed without noticing. I was walking on eggshells to make sure he didn't explode, adjusted my behavior and habits. I gave up some of my activities to fit into our or his routine. He didn't like one of my friends and tried to discredit her, but fortunately, our friendship held. What I'm trying to say is all of these changes in me crept on me. They just crept in slowly, y'all. It was so gradual I barely noticed. After we got married, things only got worse. I had problems with my health, and my husband insisted of helping me, maybe instead of helping me, created pressure, berated me. Everyone has problems. There's something wrong with you. And hitting objects started. I left. The cost is big. I don't mean money, but my health. I am a shadow of myself, and I feel like I lost my identity. Fortunately, I am financially independent. I had money to make temporary arrangements as I had my own savings. I have a good education and good job. I will take a financial hit, but I can keep myself safe. It is just now that I realize how completely screwed I would be if I didn't have my own income and separate savings. The thought of having to stay due to lack of money makes me sick. I feel for everyone in this situation. This is my message for women. You have to have your own life and your own money. You never know what life will bring. Don't ignore red flags. It's really better to give up the relationship early and trust your gut. She says, thank you for all your videos. They really helped me to notice many things and guide me to prepare my exit. I don't want to be in a relationship. I notice I'm most happy single. I will focus on myself now. Now, I do want to go back up to some things that she has said, because these are some things in their playbook that it just repeats. It's just a different couple, but these things repeat. This part right here, walking on eggshells, is to manage his emotions. So you try to be small. You try to keep your voice a certain tenor. You try not to take up too much space and do things precisely how he would want. That is a form of control. He is controlling you without actually having to ever touch you. The isolation part of it, trying to isolate you away from your friends, the making his routine yours to where you lose your identity. You're no longer doing the things that you like to do. That is to completely enmesh you into him. And like she said, by the time she left, she didn't recognize herself. This is one of the reasons why women start to look so beat down in some of these relationships. Something is attached and sucking their life force. And then, this once vibrant, independent, thriving, got good color, skin looking flawless, all of that just turns into a husk of herself. And this is one of the main reasons why I will continue to say, and I don't care about the discussion and the way men do not like independent women and they don't like feminists and all of that. Having your own money is important. Being able to be financially secure is important. Even if you do fall out of the workforce for a time being, if you choose to, then you still you need to make sure that your career, you have a foundation, you have your certifications in alignment, or you have all of these things put together so that if and when you go back into the workforce, you are perfectly fine. So that you're not completely dependent, because when you are completely dependent, that is when the financial abuse comes along and when you really have to game plan as a way to get out. But also, if you have isolated, if you've been isolated, if you have cut yourself off from all people, then it makes it harder to get away as well. That is the reason why we have to continue to have these discussions and why people like me get demonized, because I want women to be able to survive and thrive regardless of your relationship status. All right, y'all. I just wanted to give that short story time. There's not a bunch of comments that follow because this was an inbox, but I do want to remind us all, this is the main reason why we have these discussions. This woman was able to get away because she had money. Now she's going to have to heal and rebuild and all of that. And this is just the beginning of her story. Hopefully, she chimes back in a few months and lets us all know that she's doing amazing, and that would be great. Join the conversation, though. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.
Is watching all of the men that have been hoes their whole lives, like never wanted to settle down, was always ripping and running, partying. Now we're all like almost 30, right? And watching them scramble to find a wife. And y'all, they'll pick anyone and everyone. Like, literally, whoever lands in front of their face, they're like, yeah, I'll take you. You'll be my wife.
This is the Sex and the City taxi cab theory all over again, where a man drives around with his taxi cab light on, and the first person that hops in is the woman that he marries. When a man gets to a certain age, maybe the parents have been pressuring him, where's my grandbaby? And he's like, you know what? I need to find somebody. You'll do. And one of the comments said, and I quote, the reason why they aren't picky is because some of them are not going to stop dating once they're married. Some of them just want to have kids when they're young, in their 20s and their 30s. But they know they can have kids into their 70s and their 80s. So they're perfectly fine with you being in the first wives club. And then they're at their 50 or 60-year-old age saying, you know, I'm going to get me a wife in the 30s and we're going to have a brand new set of kids. But of course, they'll never tell you that. They'll make you think that it's you and them forever. But some of them never stop looking. They just need to go ahead and get this party started. I've seen some women talk about dates that they've gone on where the man talks about how he wants to be married and have kids in the next few months. And on the first date, he's acting as if he wants to marry her and have kids with her. And she's like, slow down. They don't want to slow down. They want to know that you're desperate too, so that you guys can get together and scratch this thing off of your list together. But he's not really in it with you for the long haul. That's why they brag about how they don't love their wives when they're at Costco, when they're at work, and they're at church. They can't wait to sit around with a bunch of men and say, I can't stand my wife. It's because they never loved her. They needed somebody to check a box.